Nothing fucking fixes you. There's no ayahuasca. So many people go think, oh, I'm going to do ayahuasca. I'm going to be this whole other person. No, that's not what's going to happen at all. What's going to happen is you're going to be the exact same fucking asshole that you already are, but you're just going to really know it. That's it. That's all that's going to happen when you do ayahuasca or if you do the forum. You're going to be the same fucking miserable asshole. You're just going to be very aware of why you are that way and what you can actually do about it. And then it's up to you to actually do the work in your life to change. Before I dive into this episode, I just wanted to say I think that mental health and business are intimately tied to each other. So being that most of my content is business related, I know a lot of my listeners come for some of the more spiritual, energetic views as well. But I wanted to let everyone know that this episode, I do talk about some hard stuff, some depression, suicide attempts. And if that's not what you're looking for or anyone feels triggered by that, this might not be the episode for you. But there is also a really empowering and hopeful message because I'm obviously here and I'm following my dreams. I'm doing what I love to do with life. And if I had not gone through some of those hard times and learned what I learned through them, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So rough seas do build strong sailors. And this episode is for anyone that might be going through some experiences like that. Drug addiction, depression, just there's a lot going on in the world. And I think you don't have a heart if you don't feel some of that pain. So it's totally normal. But if you do need help, there's obviously support, therapy, psychiatrists, hotlines, and you can always reach out to me as well, especially if you're struggling with drug addiction or anything like that. I'm always here to be of service and help others. So on that note, I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Artful Dollar. I want to share a little bit of my life experience of beating crazy depression, alcoholism, drug addiction, and ultimately what led me to getting at least some of my shit together. I definitely don't have it all together, but I've been through some shit that nearly killed me, and I like a lot of tattoo artists out there, believe that tattooing did ultimately save my life. It gave me some purpose. But even in early tattooing, I dealt with a lot of, especially drug addiction and alcohol, depression. And so none of this, disclaimer, is medical advice. I am not a mental health professional. I am someone that has spent a lot of time inside of medical professional facilities, both psychiatric hospitals and rehab facilities, but I am not a doctor or a psychologist or a therapist. So if you are struggling with anything, depression, all sorts of, mental abnormalities, please seek professional advice. This is not a replacement for that. I'm just going to share my experience and what has helped me, because it's not necessarily the diagnosed medical, professional medication path. While I have been on a lot of medications and I absolutely believe in the effectiveness of therapy, and I've seen some really great therapists, I do also think that the medical service profession industry did me and a lot of people that struggle with psychosis and depression did me pretty wrong. And in many ways, it was very harmful. And I don't have any, I think that doctors are doing the best they can with the tools they have available. So I don't harbor any ill wish towards the mental health profession or as the industry as a whole. I do think they are doing the best, but I think they think inside of a very limiting framework. And so I wanted to share with you my observation. And again, my hope is that anyone out there who does struggle with depression or, just anxiety or beating yourself up a lot or finding it hard to motivate yourself to strive for something bigger and exciting in your life, you're just feeling stuck, I think this episode is going to be for you. And so let's go back. First of all, I have two incredible parents. They never abused me. They never hit me. We are, very middle class family. They bought their first home when I was about 16 years old. We rented. My mom's an artist. My dad is a philosopher and kind of a therapist. Although I joke about him being an unlicensed therapist because he does see clients one-on-one in a, you could almost say, therapeutic format. But he's not a psychologist. He studied philosophy. That's what he majored in, and that's what his whole life is about, particularly focusing on drug addiction and addictive behaviors, which is interesting because that is a big part of my story. They say that addiction runs in the family, and that is certainly the case for me, and especially on my dad's side of the family. A lot of my family members are still in active addiction or are in some, let's say, somewhere on that spectrum. So before the drugs, before the tattoos, before the rock and roll and all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I was always a very sensitive child. And I always thought, like, I could cry easily. I felt a lot. I felt big feelings. And I felt like I always had to try to hide that was somehow a weakness. And I was a very happy kid too. Like I wasn't like a dark, depressed, anxious child. I was always fairly outgoing, sociable, but when I was 10 years old, I had a complete mental breakdown to the point where I had to be hospitalized for, I think it was maybe 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere in there. I was in a psychiatric hospital. And so I often, to this day, am a little bit like, what the fuck happened? I don't have all the answers, but I do have a perspective of 28 years later, looking back on what was going on. But from my understanding now, so what happened? So I'll just walk the play by play. I was 10 years old. I was walking through my school lobby and I was looking out the doors of the school out into the street where I saw all these people bustling and rushing about, living their lives, trying to chase whatever it was that they were doing or up to. And I like kind of just like felt this intense dread for the future. Like out those doors is a world. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to leave this school. I'm going to compete to get into the right high school and compete to get into the right college and then compete to get the right job so that I can compete to earn enough money to what? To just struggle and just, it just, I could see the rat race. It was like in that moment, it was like, it just like struck me. And it was like my whole reality crumbled. And I didn't want that for myself. I was terrified. I don't think I had concepts like late stage capitalism or, political and not, rigmarole. I just felt like I saw a world of unhappy people chasing something that they thought would make them happy that never really would. And I didn't want to sign up for that. Like that's what I felt in that moment. And it was right then that this blue man appeared. And he was seemingly older man, slightly translucent, almost like a ghost from a video game or something like that, right? I played video games. I watched movies. Maybe there's all these things influencing it. Who knows? And he didn't say anything to me. He was wearing some kind of old tattered clothing, a brimmed hat, some kind of vest, maybe, again, like almost like he was a farmer, maybe. I still remember it to this day. I see this man and I'm terrified because there should not be a slightly translucent blue man ghost figure here. And I leave the school building. And this is like towards the end of the day. I leave the school and I'm going home and I'm having this experience where he's like chasing me and he's kicking me. And now again, this memory is like all very fog, but this is a psychotic breakdown. That's what this is. For anyone out there that has not experienced this, you might be like, that sounds totally fucking insane. Are you making this up or what's going on? But for anyone that has had a true, legitimate, psychotic, psychological break from reality, you know that like your memories of that are very real. And yet there is some part of me that's, like, what was that real? Like it just lives in this very strange place. So I immediately go home. I call my mom. She's worried because I think I was supposed to go to Hebrew school that day. I grew up, I'm in the tribe. My dad's Catholic, my mom's Jewish, and hated Hebrew school. In fact, all the rich kids from the private school in the same neighborhood, I went to the public school, they all went to the same Hebrew school. And not that it was expensive or anything, that's where they went. And I was surrounded by a bunch of kids I didn't know, that I somehow knew they were all wealthier than me, and they didn't like me. And I got picked on a lot at Hebrew school. And so she's freaked out, and I'm telling her about this blue man, and she's coming home. And so what went on, I'm not going to give you the full, but like that was the moment where like I broke. And I wish I could say there was something happened to me, someone treated me a certain way, and that's why I dealt with depression. That's why I wanted to kill myself. I think I don't know, again, like neurodivergence or whatever. I've heard that a lot of people that struggle with all kinds of neurodivergent, whatever diagnoses, we'll get into diagnoses in a bit, but like suicidal thoughts is not an uncommon thing. And I don't know that I really wanted to die. I did attempt to kill myself. There were many suicide attempts, and I should maybe make a trigger warning if that is something that is triggering to people. Like, don't continue this episode if just hearing about that is too much. So I apologize. I should have said that ahead of time. But again, mental health, depression, it just kind of comes to the territory. And it eventually got to the point where I was talking about killing myself, standing and banging on windows on the second floor of this house, which if I fell, I probably wouldn't die, but like just, it's like praying for death, but just praying that this pain, this discomfort that I feel, I don't know why I feel it, but I feel it. I want it to end. And the only way I can think of to get it to end. And look, if I'm being truly honest and reflective, is there some element of it that is like a cry for help? And that it's like something was wrong and I needed the attention, but I didn't know what kind of attention I needed. And I didn't know how to ask for it. And so I'm a 10-year-old child. When I look at a 10-year-old kid now, like I have an 8-year-old stepson, my daughter is 6. I have a 12-year-old stepson. I'm just like, God, you're so young and innocent. Why would I want to kill myself? And it's really hard for me to think about how I want to even convey to listeners what I think about it. I don't know, but that's what happened then. And I started drinking like a fucking crazy person at 13, 14 is when I had my first blackout, like chugging whiskey and vodka straight from the bottle because I don't want to feel the way that I feel. And anything I can do, and even before that, like before 10, when I was like 8 or 9, I think I was like sipping wine at some religious, Passover ceremony, and I immediately felt this like, ooh, this magical liquid makes me not feel pain or discomfort or awkward, whatever it is that I feel. And I think I announced, this is a story my dad tells, I announced to everyone at the dinner table, I said, listen, I figured it out. When I grow up, I'm going to move and live. I'm going to rent an apartment on top of a bar because whatever is in this cup, they serve there, and I'm going to make sure that I always have access to it. Like from a 9-year-old child, having just a taste of wine and getting that little bit of a buzz, that's alcoholism. Like for anyone that, and again, I think it's up to you to determine. Alcoholism is something that is self-diagnosed. I mean, obviously we look at some people and we're like, that person's an alcoholic, but that never helps that person. It really, And let's get into that. So in my teen years, mostly like marijuana, alcohol, LSD, that was my jam. And I would go to school completely blasted out of my mind. So I got thrown into the special education system after that experience of being 10 and then eventually being hospitalized. And that would not be my last visitation to a psychiatric hospital because they didn't know what the fuck to do with me. And they diagnosed me as like schizoaffective, which is like a bipolar / schizophrenic. I think I see the world differently. I don't think I'm special that I see the world differently. I think there are a lot of people that see the world differently. And we cope with that and manage that in the various ways that we do. Some people pour it into their art. Some people pour it into the whatever. I think we all have a mental illness. In fact, I'm a big fan of the Aldous Huxley, big Aldous Huxley fan in general, but his quote on, it's not the crazy people that we lock up and put away in these psychiatric hospitals. It's the people that easily and effortlessly fit into the cookie cutter mold that society has laid out for them. Those are the crazy people. And I subscribe to that because the world is so fucking insane. And I'm not one of those people that like, the world is horrible, it's terrible. No, it's also incredibly beautiful and wild, but there's just so much. And especially in today's day and age where we're bombarded with information left and right, it's worse now than ever. You kind of have to be to tolerate it in an even keel, like, yeah, okay, like this is fine. You have to be fucking insane to do that. And so if you have big feelings about the way the world is, and this is not reflective of your ethnicity, your race, your religion, your political views, whoever you are, if you're a human being on this rock floating around this fireball and you find it hard to do that, of course you do. It's crazy. It's maddening. I'm surprised more people don't have complete psychotic separations from reality on a more regular basis. Maybe I'm just so normal. I don't fucking know. I don't think I'm special in any kind of way. I just have my unique experience that I can speak from. And personally, I believe we all possess incredible capabilities that the world around us, the way we cope with the world around us is we fit ourselves into a smaller mold, a cookie cutter mold. We try to fit ourselves because it feels safer to do that. And if anything, I just feel like I had a really hard time. I still to this day have an incredibly hard time trying to fit myself into anyone's preconceived beliefs or notions around the way that I should be or act or think. And so I turn a lot of people off. A lot of people, my whole life, there's been a lot of people that are not subscribed to the Ryan Roy, anything. I pissed a lot of people off my whole career. I never felt like I was a part of tattooing in a deeper way because everywhere I went, now I had my good friends that people that were like rock solid human beings from day one to this day. We are still, solid through and through. But you think I pissed tattooer artists off today? I've been pissing tattooers off since I started tattooing. Like, we'll get into that. But in my teen years, so I started self-harm. I started cutting. I was a cutter. I was cutting my arms because I think tattooing, that feeling that pain, there was some cathartic sense of like this pain that's in me, like feeling that pain, that physical pain somehow pulls away my attention from like the pain in my soul and I don't know where it's located pain, right? I wish I could point on the doll and say where it hurts, but it just, to say everything hurts, it was just an existential suffering. That's what I felt from a very young age. And then through my teen years, I used drugs and alcohol and pain and anything I could do. I got put in a psych hospital once and they let me go out with my mom. I was about 16 years old and I had a couple friends come to visit me. And I don't know how or what. They let me smoke cigarettes. And so I was smoking a cigarette and I asked my friend Rachel if she had whiteout in her bag, which she did. I don't know why she had whiteout in her bag, but she happened. And I poured the whiteout on the cigarette and like was trying to smoke it to get high. Like I was like, literally, what can I do? I would put any pill, I would crush anything, I would shove it in wherever I had to shove it to feel other than the way that I felt. That was the kind of drug addict. But here's the thing. I never in a million years thought that I was a drug addict. So apparently 88% of listeners have not left a review or subscribed. And I'm going to get right back to the podcast in just a second. But if you have found this episode helpful and you think that other people would benefit from listening, then all I ask in return is please just leave a quick review and subscribe. It'll take just 1 minute and it might help other tattooers and other artists find this podcast and help them out. So please, it would mean the world to me and it might actually make a difference for someone else. Thanks. I never in a million years thought that I was a drug addict. It did not, I was like, no, like those people that are like, leaning out on this, those are the drug addicts, and so I did get in and out of rehabs and psych hospitals. The last psych hospital that I was ever in was when I was 18 years old. And I turned 18 in the hospital. That's what it was. So 17, 18. But I had 12 treatments of electroconvulsive therapy, which is where they give you an electronically induced seizure. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's not like back in the 50s. And even today, it's like a different thing. It's evolved. But it is still quite a little bit barbaric. Like they're literally putting electrodes on your head and shocking you until you have a seizure, which the way it was described to me was like hitting the reset button on the Nintendo. And the way my chemistry, here's the thing, I don't think there was a chemistry problem. I don't think, all of the downer, the mood stabilizers and the antipsychotics, the tranquilizers, essentially. I was on Haldol, Risperdal, Seroquel, Depakote, Thorazine, lithium. I mean, I can't even remember all the fucking names now of all the medications that I've been on. And the treatment and the electrical, like, because I just wanted to die. I just wanted to die for years of my life. And yeah, I don't talk about this. I feel like social media is like not like the place to talk about this. But I wanted to do this episode because anyone that's even remotely experiencing anything like what I have, I want you to know like there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I know we're getting into some dark doom and gloom. The next part of this story is, well, there's a few things. So I started working in tattoo shops when I was 19 years old. I became a body piercer. I did a 2-week apprenticeship, and then they were like, their other piercer quit, and they're like, we need you to work full-time. And all of a sudden, I was a full-time piercer. That was not by choice, but I got thrown right in the deep end in the West Village on 8th Street and 6th Avenue. Like, if anyone knows, there was like so many tattoo shops, piercing parlors there. And around that time, I was sober for a little period of time, maybe 18, because I was in the hospital, to 21. And so I was going to 12-step meetings. I was trying to live my life. And like, again, my dad had been sober my whole life. So I'm trying to figure out who I am after like the fucking weird experience of being a teenager and growing up in hormones and insanity and living portions of my life in psychiatric hospitals and deep, dark depression. And I felt like now you're barely an adult at 19, but I need to figure out who I am and what I am. So I started working at this tattoo shop as a piercer. And that was that was a world where I was like, okay, the whole corporate world, the rat race of climbing, work ladder, whatever people do out there, this is not that. This is a very different environment. And I felt way more at home at this tattoo shop, Cassiopeia, for any 6th Ave, Lower Manhattan people out there from back in the day. It's not there anymore. Bianca. Got stories. So I turned 21 and I'm in New York City and I've never drank legally in my entire life. I used to go to this AA meeting called Never Had a Legal Drink. And it was for people that literally had never had a legal drink in their entire life. And I was like, maybe that was just like me being a dumb kid and not knowing how to be responsible with alcohol and drugs. And I didn't yet. In AA did end up teaching me quite a lot in 12-step stuff. Again, I'm not like a representative of that organization. That it's the most beautiful anarchy, AA. And when I say anarchy, I don't mean destructive. I mean there are no rules. It doesn't exist as any one thing. There is no leader, and it is a pure democratic anarchy where anything they get to create the rules, and it actually works really remarkably well. Like, it's the only one that exists in the entire world. And I think it's because it's a group of people that have felt this tremendous pain in their lives, and they are coming together with the one sole intention of supporting each other in recovery from this affliction of what they like to say is a spiritual disease. And that's why I say that I don't think I had a chemical imbalance. I don't think I was diagnosed with everything in the fucking DSM-4 or now DSM-5 or whatever. I think the doctors did the best they could, but my mom often says, and I've talked about, having plant medicine, ayahuasca ceremonies. My mom even says sometimes she thought about bringing me out to the desert in Mexico and, finding some peyote shaman because she didn't think that the lithium was the answer. She didn't know what the answer was either, and she absolutely did the best she could to support and be there for me in any way she could. But she used to shave my medication, my pills, because it would turn me into a zombie. I would literally, the last year of high school, whatever that, I was like in a treatment facility, rehab facility, I would take these medications and I would just be plastered to the table in a pool of drool, and I would wake up like 2 hours later and like all the kids would just be like throwing shit at me and making fun. I just lived in this drugged out haze for a year and a half, really. And so she would shave the medication down with a razor blade to try to wean me off of these very powerful drugs. And so, okay, now I'm 21 in New York City. I am working in tattoo shops. I just started tattooing around that time too. I had worked in shops and I never had a proper apprenticeship, unfortunately, but I learned a lot through osmosis and watching people handle the whole cross-contamination thing down from being a body piercer. And so just tattooing myself and a couple of friends here and there. And again, I never felt really, I had this group of friends in tattoo. I actually used to do body suspension. So again, just like into weird, painful, swinging from hooks and all sorts of going to conventions and stuff like that. And solid human beings, not gonna but I always felt like they didn't really see me. I never felt like I was truly seen for who I actually am. And I felt like I was a bit of the runt of the group. And I never understood why. I was like, why am I treated like the redheaded stepchild of this? No offense, redheads. Why am I treated, And so something I teach every tattooer that I coach, every human being that I speak to, it's not about coaching or anything. It's like literally something I preach is that if you want to change your life, if you want to change particularly your mindset, your mental way of thinking about life, and ultimately just changing the circumstances around you, you have to remove people from your life that are not in support of that transformation, of that change. If you have bigger goals for yourself or you want to start marketing, I can't tell you how many times I talk to tattooers that say, Ryan, I'm starting to make content and it's like everyone in my shop hates me. And they're like mad at me, and like other tattooers that I used to talk to, it's like they're avoiding me. And I'm like, because what you're doing is challenging their views of their own life. And there's some part of them that maybe wishes they could step outside their comfort zone, but it's too hard for them. And they're seeing you do it and it's challenging them, and they're afraid to do it. And so rather than work on themselves, they have to judge you. They have to remove themselves from you. And so remove yourself, right? If they were never rooting for you to win, as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're following your goals, if they're not going to root for you to win at that, whatever that is, they were never your fucking friends. And I had to have that realization. So there were people from high school, there were people from, early 20s that I just realized I need to remove myself from this whole social circle. And it was like kind of all my tattoo friends and everyone. I quit the tattoo shop and I actually went to college for a little bit. I was like, maybe, I don't know if tattooing is going to work out for me, but I've always been interested in jewelry. I don't know why. I like tiny detail. I like working with my hands and metal work. When I was even a little kid, I used to like make little jewelry. I never wore it. I don't know why I would make it. But I went to FIT for jewelry and metalsmithing while tattooing. And I got a decent college education. I graduated with, whatever, summa cum laude, whatever the fuck. And I worked with, my professor was this incredible jeweler. And I did an apprenticeship, a jewelry apprenticeship in his studio. And it was a fantastic experience. And I'd say the biggest benefit of all of that, even though I don't make jewelry anymore, I don't do any metal work, maybe in the future, but I got out of the environment. That's what college gave me, is it gave me a different environment with new people that didn't know me, that I could actually explore who I really was. I don't think I really understood who I was or started to until I got sober again at 26. But this is in my like early 23s, at 23-ish. So that, I would say, getting out of that environment. And if you're dealing with depression or the most important thing you can do is find the people. And if there's no one in your life, find some group. There's so many groups online, but like your life depends on it, because it probably does. Find a group of people that can really see you for who you really are. Like, that's my job as a coach, is I just see my clients as the greatest versions of themselves, and then I reflect that back to them. And when they talk to me or try to talk me out or tell me, explain the excuses and stuff, I'm like, wait, hold on. You are capable of this. I know that you are, but you're not talking to me like you are capable of that. So we need to shift the way we're looking and thinking and talking about this first before we go and take those actions. And it's challenging for people, it's definitely confronting, but that's what I got. So backtrack a little bit. When I was 19 years old, was that right? No, sorry. When I was 21 years old, I did something called the Landmark Forum. And I talked about it a little bit in an episode where I was reading my whole Reddit post of some of the craziest shit that's been written about me online. It was with this organization called Landmark, this thing called the Landmark Forum, that my parents wanted me to do. And I kind of did a little bit when I was a kid, but I wasn't that into it. It wasn't the right time for me. And I will say, so there's a lot of things about that really shifted my whole perspective about myself, my place in the world, and the world around me. But one of the exercises we did that had a profound impact on my whole, literally, I felt like within 20 minutes, a massive level up breakthrough in my whole sense of self and being, was this exercise where we would sit in a chair, and you're in a room with 150 people, right? It's one of these seminar things. And honestly, there's so much about it that it totally feels weird, and it's uncomfortable, and it's different. And there's all these happy people there, and you're like, why the fuck are you so happy? It's confronting, and it's supposed to be confronting. And honestly, I've always been someone that has sought out things that confront me, things that challenge my views of the world. And so we sat in this chair, and they were guiding you, not really a meditation, but kind of like a guided experience, right? And they're like, all right, we want you to think of everything that terrifies you. I don't know if it was exactly worded like that, but it was like the things that really bring fear. Just bring that up. Where are you? Who are you with? Where does that feeling live in your body? Where in your life do you experience that? And you just keep it there. Keep it there. And I'm not inviting you to do this right now. You might not be in a place where this is a good thing to do, but I'm just sharing. And you just be with it. And you be, and just allow yourself to be with that emotion, because so much of life is spent trying to get away, trying to ignore or numb ourselves to the fact that we are in pain and we are afraid. And it was just let yourself this is a safe space, container, environment to experience that fear. And I had so much bottled up fear, so much about the world, about what people were going to think of me, and all the just stuff. It just felt like it was at this point, this overwhelming, suffocating experience of fear that I did not want to look at and did not want to deal with, but I let myself just feel it, and I started bawling, just crying, just like, really, oh my God. I love crying, by the way. Like, now I rarely have the opportunity to, but when it does occur, oh my God, it feels amazing. I got torn apart online one time by some tattooers who were like, what the fuck's wrong with tattooing? What do you mean you like crying? I think crying is such a powerful, transformative experience and liberating experience. And so I'm buying, and then other people start crying in this room, and it's this really weird experience where in this room, like 150 people sitting. It's like a presentation. It's like one of those short stages, not like a big stage, but it's like someone's at the front and everyone's crying, and then you start laughing. Like, it just, you kind of get tired of crying, and you're just like a little bit of like and it just, like, the absurdity of it. Because what I got present to was how so much of my fear comes from what other people are going to think of me, but they're also terrified of what other people are going to think of them. And it was like this whole room of people realizing the absurdity of the game of life, where you are living with fear of what other people are. Meanwhile, they're not even, most 99.99999% of the time, they're not fucking thinking of you, because they're fucking so worried about what other people are going to think of them. And we're all going around in this madhouse, right? That's what it is. And acting and reacting in all sorts of very irrational ways. I mean, human beings, we like to think that we're rational creatures, but the reality is there ain't nothing rational or logical about us. We do stupid shit. We don't fucking know why. But then we justify it with some reason that we come up with, and we're like, yeah, I did that because that makes sense. And you're like, wait, zoom out. Like, none of this shit. Humans are fucked. Humans are crazy. And it's just what it is. I'm not even saying anything bad about humanity. I'm just like, we're fascinating hominids on this rock floating around a fireball. And it was like, when I had that realization, it was like a real breakthrough moment. I got that I don't need to live with that fear. Like, I really got it. It's one thing to understand it, and something that they say at Landmark is understanding is the booby prize, meaning, like, we all want to understand and we seek to be understood. And there are things in life that, like, you understand concepts. Like, I understand that if I don't put donuts in my face and I pick up heavy objects and I put them down and I do that repeatedly, like, I will get in amazing shape. I would love to be in amazing shape. I'm not. I'm working on it. I'm doing my best. I work out a couple times a week, but I'm not making the progress that I want. Like, I understand how to get in shape, but understanding how to get in shape doesn't fucking get you in shape. And understanding how to be happy and the things you could do to make yourself happier doesn't make you happier. Understanding what you could do to market and attract clients. Understanding is the booby prize. And we're all like, yeah, I know, I get it. I could do it. But it was like, I got it. I don't have to live with this weight of other people's opinions about me anymore. And I got how much of my life is like, I didn't even realize how much of my life was dictated by that and suppressed, how much of my self-expression was suppressed by that fear. And it was like 20 years of that, or however many years I spent in, like, social circus, a decade of fear of other people's opinions that was slowly building like dust on a shelf, all of a sudden was gone. And it was it was a psychedelic experience. There were no drugs involved. There was no Kool-Aid to drink. Dead sober, literally having a completely new revelatory experience of what it's like to be myself and be a human being. That was my experience of the forum. And there were many other things, understanding the stories that I tell myself that dictate my reality. And like, this is all backed by neuroscience. Like, this isn't like some theory. It like literally the words, even the language you use, let alone the specific words, people who speak different languages think very differently. And their experience of reality is actually impacted. And they've done studies with, bilingual, multilingual people. Dreams are different. Like the language you speak completely changes your whole experience of reality. And so therefore the words that you use in the language that you speak also. And so just identifying the power of my words. I didn't live like my words have the power that they have. And for the rest of my life after that experience in the forum, lived knowing, not just understanding, but knowing that the way I speak about myself, the world around me, the words I use, the things I keep repeating over and over again unconsciously without even, like, I don't have enough time and I can't do that and I'm bad with technology and, social media is blah, 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 whatever. That's changing your whole world especially when you say it over and over again. So I realized, if I want my life to change, I need to change the way I think. And if I change the way I think, it'll change the way I speak, and it'll change the way that I feel, and it'll change the way that I act, and it will change my habits, and that will change my identity, and ultimately my whole reality will shift. And so my life was profoundly and positively impacted by my experience of taking the forum. A lot of people say that. There's other people that it was a very challenging or not for them experience, and it's fine. I don't like ayahuasca. I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think there's everyone should believe in this thing, because if everyone believed in this, then everyone, I don't think that's the truth. This has just worked for me, and I don't force any of my opinions or beliefs on anybody. I share them freely. If it's helpful, great. You can try it on like a jacket. If you like the way it feels and looks, keep it. If you don't, throw it out. And so when I was 24, 25, working in tattoo shops, again, surrounded by mostly people that I felt like were angry and thriving on chaos and using drugs and alcohol to deal with the way that they feel. And I just kind of saw, I worked at this one shop, and you maybe heard me share this story, but if you haven't, I was 10 years younger than all the other tattoo artists around me. And we were all broke and miserable and using whiskey and cocaine to cope with the misery that we felt. And I was just like, wow, but I'm 26, they're 36. So if I keep doing what I'm doing now, I will be them. And like, that fucking terrified me. That shook me to my core. Again, I had this great transformative experience working with Landmark. I did other courses and stuff like that. That all benefited me, but like, nothing fucking fixes you. There's no ayahuasca. So many people go think, I'm going to do ayahuasca, I'm going to be this whole other person. No, that's not what's going to happen at all. What's going to happen is you're going to be the exact same fucking asshole that you already are, but you're just going to really know it. That's it. That's all that's going to happen when you do ayahuasca or if you do the forum. You're going to be the same fucking miserable asshole. You're just going to be very aware of why you are that way and what you can actually do about it. And then it's up to you to actually do the work in your life to change. And so I was still doing the work. And part of that was waking up to the fact that I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. And I didn't do any ayahuasca until I was like 8 years into sobriety, which that's maybe another episode I'll talk on. I have some episodes where I talk a little bit about it. I was not missing my bills. I was not, my life wasn't crumbling. Like, I was a high functioning drug addict, high functioning alcohol. Like, I would do tattoos all day, maybe start drinking a little bit before the day was over. And, I'm not proud to say that I have tattooed under the influence. I think that is absolutely wrong. And I've done it, and I do not condone it in any way, shape, or form. It is unacceptable. And I feel terrible of the fact that I did that, but I also want to just own that I did that and I took actions to rectify that, right? If I was still doing that, that would absolutely not be acceptable. It's like I could keep living the life that I was living, but I knew where it was headed. I didn't think I was going to die. I just realized I was just going to be 36 years old and fucking broke and miserable if I kept doing what I'm doing now. And so that was what terrified me. And I decided the only thing I can do right now is I can stop drinking. I can stop smoking weed. In fact, I stopped drinking first, and then I was just smoking weed. I was like, well, maybe the problem's alcohol, but like I would inevitably end up drinking again. And so, June 13th of whatever, 12 years ago from now, in 2026, it'll be 13 years sober. Thank God. God bless. By the grace of, and when I say the word God, by the way, if in case you're wondering what I mean by that, I don't know. God is a placeholder for all that which I cannot possibly understand, nor can I ever claim to explain in the limited medium of the English language. Nothing can possibly encapsulate what is truly meant by the word God, and all religions have it wrong, and they're doing their best to point at something, but like they say in the Tao, the finger that points, do not confuse the finger that points at the moon for the moon itself. Right? Do not confuse religion as the source of truth, but it's pointing at it. It's doing its best. And I've gotten immense value out of learnings from Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism and Hinduism and, Vedic texts. My favorite religion is Bokononism, actually. If you don't know what Bokononism is, look it up. And so that was what caught me on a bit of a spiritual journey. I'm a seeker at the end of the day. I don't subscribe to the landmark way or the Buddhist way. I've always hated labels, and I think, actually, this kind of comes full circle here. I think the number one thing, is this statement that's about to come out of my mouth true? Let me think for a second. Yeah, I think it's pretty true. Let's see. Let's say it and see how I feel about it. I think that the number one thing that is holding humans, people back in their lives is the labels that they identify themselves with. Let me say that again. The number one thing that is holding all human beings back from reaching their fullest potential is whatever labels they identify themselves with. So, for example, I identified as a crazy person because that's what the doctor with the college education and the script pad told me, that I was a schizoaffective, treatment-resistant depression. That's literally what it said on my diagnosis. Treatment-resistant depression. Not only is this guy depressed, but anything we do to try to get him to not be sad doesn't help. And so he's got a special... I was like, what do you do with that? I feel like so many... By the way, every tattoo artist that I've ever talked to, let alone worked with, everyone I've talked to, they're like, oh yeah, I really struggle with ADHD. Like, okay, but like, at what point is that label serving you? And at what point is that label not actually serving? So like, you have a particular way. I could probably easily get diagnosed with ADHD. But the label, okay, now what? So what do you want me to do? Put amphetamines in my body to treat? I'm not going to do that. So it wouldn't even serve me. I think labels can serve you for a period of time. I know they can, 100%. But even the label of tattoo artist was a limiting identity for myself to live into for a while. And when I had this thought or idea that, what if I wanted to do something else other than tattooing? Could I? But I felt like I was betraying my whole identity, my whole makeup. And so whether it's a medical diagnosis or a religious affiliation or a political party or whatever label you've used to identify yourself, I'm going to ask you, I don't know for sure. I'm always going to invite you. Ask yourself, is this serving me? is this benefiting me? Or is this label limiting and keeping me from creating something new? Again, the power of our words, these labels that we use, ADHD, I'm going to go ahead and say, and queer and straight and heterosexual, and all these things. Like, I don't think anyone is like, oh, you're just straight and like that's it, and oh, well, you're just queer or gay or any, like, why do any of these labels even need to exist? Why can't you just be a human being that likes what you like, and you're into what you're into, and you're not into what you're not into, and there doesn't need to be any identifying label about it outside of sexuality, outside of religion? Like, that, for me, whatever that label is, I will take one of those. The thing that doesn't have any definition or constraint or limitation to it, I would like one of those labels, because that's the only one that I can truly identify with. And it's the only one that I think truly serves me and serves you in your life. And so what got me out of the depression and the psychosis and the drug addiction and the dark places and the depression and the fear and the poor mindset around money and never being able to save money, and what got me out of all of these dark, dark places was ultimately letting go of the identity that I had that was attached to whatever labels were associated with that world. Does that make sense? I had a label, I had an identity, I had a way that I saw myself. People used to call me Crazy Ryan, like when I was younger as a teenager, because I was out of my fucking mind. I had dreadlocks, and they were like pink dreadlocks, and all these piercings in my face, and I would fucking just do weird, stupid shit and jump up on cop cars and smash. I was just, but I identified as Crazy Ryan, and so letting go, whatever social circle, whatever musical, not that you can't like those things, but just the label around it. And really getting to know yourself, sitting in silence, questioning, challenging, putting yourself in a position where who you know yourself to be, everything that you know yourself to be, will be challenged. That was what I would say the Landmark Forum really did for me, is it just put me in a position where everything that I thought I knew myself to be true was challenged. And I think that's a really good thing. And it doesn't have to be Landmark. It could be something else. But I would say for anyone out there, and it's hard to say, well, you're depressed, why would you go and challenge yourself? No, the first thing you should do is find some other community, other people that don't associate you with whatever labels you've been associated with. I would say that's one of the most powerful things that any human being can do to change their lives. The minute you start surrounding yourself with people that don't have the association of who you are been associated with, move out of town, Again, don't get a support circle first, but you're connected to everyone online these days. So find that. And then once you've got that support group, those people that no longer associate you as whatever labels you thought you were, then seek out experiences. It could be climbing a fucking mountain, right? I don't know, but seek out things that challenge who you know yourself to be. Because ultimately, everything that you think is who you are is wrong. And it always has been wrong. And it always will be wrong. So rather than wearing your beliefs and your identities and your attachments as a tight suit that you zip up and you lock on, you're like, this is who I am. I am this type of person, and I believe these types of things, and I think this way. Rather than wearing your beliefs like that, I invite you to wear your beliefs like a loose shawl around your shoulders, one that you can throw off when you don't need it. You can also throw it back on when you do. You can try on new ones and say, oh, what would it be like to think in this way? Ooh, that feels weird. That's challenging, but you know what? It's also kind of exciting a little bit. Well, let me try that on for a little bit. That's how I've gone about my life. And it has served me. It has filled it. It has made all of the challenges that I've faced over the past 5 years since COVID, or 2026 now, 6 years, whatever. It's been hard. I've been through divorce. I stopped tattooing full time after 13 years, and I started like a podcast, started making content. I didn't want to, that was never on my fucking docket of shit I wanted to do with my life. I started helping people for free online, just sharing whatever knowledge and experiences helped me, and turned that into a career, and then faced immense ridicule and criticism online because I knew that was going to happen as soon as I started this. I'm not asking for any pity at all. I faced more challenges in the past 5 years than actually any of that crazy shit that I just shared with you. But I've been able to be aware, practice this rigorous level of self-awareness of my belief systems and the meaning that I give to the situations and circumstances. Very rarely are humans ever asking themselves, what am I making this mean? That was another thing I took from Landmark, actually, is recognizing, things happen in life, right? Your mom says XYZ, your business partner says ABC, and they say what they say, and whatever happened is what happened. But then on top of whatever got said and whatever happened, you add on, I add on, we all do this thing, or that's what humans do. We add meaning to it. We add our own meaning to it, and that distorts the reality, and it's almost unperceptible to you because you are you looking out through the fishbowl. You're the fish in the fishbowl looking out in the world, and you're like, I don't see a fishbowl. Of course you don't, because you're in it. And so the meaning that we all naturally, like, that's kind of what we've evolved to do through being a human being and evolving language, is we've created meaning, right? A fox doesn't create meaning to the fact that something broke or died or didn't go the way that it had predicted. It has some predictive capabilities, right? That's what especially mammalian creatures have. But it doesn't have a ability to impose any meaning on what happened because it doesn't have language. That is a unique thing to human beings. And I mean, look at the news. Just turn on the news. Look at what countries are doing right now. Like, shit happens here, and then they make it mean this, and then they make it mean this, and then they fight and kill each other about it. And like, meanwhile, none of the shit that either side said happened actually happened. Something happened. We can be certain of that. And then both parties on either side of the battle, whether that be political or nation or whatever, believe whatever it is that they believe happened, and then they fucking fight and kill each other about it. And so it's not that, okay, do nothing because none of it's real or nothing. No, it's just being aware that that happens, and then giving yourself space, room to question, am I creating meaning out of this situation? And what would it be like if I could maybe listen past the meaning that I've imbued, that I've infused into these circumstances? Would I hear something else, something new, some new way of perceiving the world that might actually benefit me? Because I didn't like teachers, I didn't like school, I didn't like authority, like most tattooers. And I realized that was another big breakthrough for me, was I was able to go to FIT and graduate with honors because I was able to hear the filter through which I would take constructive criticism from authority figures like teachers and recognize that, like, I would inevitably try to start a fight with them to prove myself wrong. Like, I was that kind of person. And I was like, that doesn't help me to do that. And so it's like these blind spots. That was really what I got out of, and I get that from all the books that I read and the courses that I take and the people that inspire me and the mentors and content that I consume. What I'm really looking after is I want things that challenge my way of seeing the world, and I want things that expose my blind spots. The most limiting belief in the world that you could possibly have is that you don't have blind spots and you don't have limiting beliefs, because you're the only person on the planet that doesn't experience that. That is the most limiting, blind spotted way to be in the world. I would rather approach the world assuming that I'm incredibly blind, imposing incredible limitations on myself, and let me see how can I remove those limitations, because it's a lot easier to create a life that is rewarding and fun and fulfilling by removing the limitations that you impose on yourself than it is to try to accomplish your goals in spite of the limitations that you impose on yourself. and then you end up chasing and repeating the same patterns and doing the same things. And you look back 10 years later and you're like, I'm still here. I'm still, if I'm really honest with myself, still doing the same thing that I did. A lot of people could look back 10 years ago, and sure, there's some things that are different, right? We're a little heavier. We maybe have kids or whatever. But if we're really honest with ourselves, I talked to a really good client. I'm going to have her on the podcast soon, Becca. We were talking this morning, and she was saying that she was reading her journal, and she looked at her goals that she would write in her journal for previous years, several years in a row, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and now we're in 2026, and she looked back on those 2022 goals, or anyway, she realized how many of them she had accomplished, but she was repeating the same patterns for many, many years. And it was through this work that I'm sharing with you here. This is the kind of work that I do with people, is having these types of conversations. I don't try to subscribe to any one school of thought. I have my own approach, and I try to explore and evolve that with people. It's a collaborative process. I'm never trying to impose my belief system on you. I'm always just trying to help you challenge your own belief system and find for yourself what feels true, what feels authentic. And the last note that I'll say is, I ultimately felt like the world was imposing on my freedom and on my ability to just be myself, to be, just be Ryan. I felt like the world, that from a young age at 10 and all through my 20s, and what got me excited about business education, ultimately, like I couldn't give a fuck about a spreadsheet or taxes or capital asset management and marketing strategies. I don't actually give a fuck about any of that stuff. It's what having an understanding and a skill set around all that stuff makes available for me and the people in my life. And what I'm after, and what I hope to help other people achieve, again, whether you just listen to this podcast or consume my content or end up working with me one day, what I hope to help everyone that I encounter achieve is liberation, or in Sanskrit they say moksha, freedom, right? Total, utter liberation, freedom to live your life in whatever way you see fit, as long as you're not hurting anyone, and freedom to be fully, unapologetically self-expressed in whatever form and shape that takes. That's all I'm after. And tattooing started to help me live that. I was like, oh, I get to help people live this experience of themselves. And then ultimately creating content and coaching and doing and speaking and doing all the things that I do it's like the most fulfilling version of what that means and looks like in my life right now. Will it always look like that? I don't know. And that's the exciting part of the journey, is I don't know what the next year is going to look like for me. I have goals. I have a vision that I'm working towards, but I'm not attached. I'm highly intentional about what I want to accomplish and where I want to go, but I'm not attached to it looking any particular way. And it's not an easy thing. I've had to come up against a lot of my own internal blocks and blind spots and limiting beliefs to be able to get to a point where I can have this high intentionality and at the same time maintain as low of a level of attachment as possible. Am I fully unattached? No, absolutely not. Am I enlightened? Far fucking from it. I am a flawed motherfucker. Believe me, just like you, we are all flawed human beings trying to do our best on this rock, floating around a fireball. And I just ranted for a while, but hopefully something that I said was of some use, or shared some helpful perspective. As long as you got one golden nugget out of this whole thing, great. Take it, use it, leave the rest. And please feel free to share this episode with anyone that you feel would benefit from my personal experience. Again, none of this is medical or medical professional advice. Please seek out the advice of a medical professional if you feel that is appropriate. Only you can make that decision for yourself. So on that note, another episode of the Artful Dollar in the books, and I will see you next time. Thanks.
All right, if you found this episode helpful, one of the best ways for you to help other artists is to share this episode. Leave a review and subscribe. It helps other people find my channel, and you never know what a difference it might make for someone else. Plus, I will forever be grateful for your support, so I just want to say thank you and have a great rest of your day.